Hello everybody and welcome to a JK Running Productions video. Today's video gonna be an indoor track season recap. This was my first indoor track season since sophomore year of high school, so it's good to have another indoor track season, and this season went way better than the cross country season. So really excited to talk about this recap. Gonna start talking about the lead up into the first meet, and then I'm gonna talk about each race that happened. I raced 6 times this year. I raced 2-mile races, 2 3K races, and 2 5K races. So going into the lead up of this indoor track season, I was looking for a little bit of a redemption, I would say, because the cross country season, I just did not feel great, did not feel like myself. I felt like I could have ran faster, or I felt like my time should have been faster. And the people that I was running workouts with, I wasn't keeping up with during any of the cross country races. So my two main goals were trying to be competitive with my teammates because I was not competitive during the cross country season. And my goal was also to break 17 minutes in the 5K. That's been a barrier I've wanted to break for a very long time. So those were my two goals. And going into the first race of the season, which was a mile race, I wasn't sure going into the race what I would run time-wise, but in a way, I would say I impressed myself. I stayed pretty competitive with my team, made a pretty big move, like 800 to go, I would say, and kind of regret that with 200 to go because the last 200 did not feel great, but I ran sub 5, I competed well, so I was really happy with how that first meet of the season went. And then going into the second meet, that was my first 5K of the year. My goal is to break 17 minutes in the 5K. I had a pretty good week of training, so my goal is just to go in there, go into that 5K, stick with my teammate, which was also in that race, and stick with him. What kind of ended up happening was he kind of pulled away from me with about 2K into the race, and he kind of remained like just less than 15 seconds ahead of me. During the race, I started off running like 77, 78 second 400s, and then towards the end, I just didn't have that strength that I would say I probably needed to run under 17 minutes. And kind of after that race, I knew I just needed to have a little bit more strength in order to break that 17 minutes in the 5K. And I knew that would come with just a little bit more training, but I still ran under 17:30, ran 17:29. So it was a solid time for my first ever 5K indoors. After that race, I would say I probably had the most disappointing race of my season. Ran 4:53 for the mile, just did not feel great throughout the whole race. The pace just fell fast, and I just wasn't happy with how that race went. That race was probably my worst race of the season. So after that race, I was just kind of like, kind of had that bad race. So I'm just going to go into this next race like I did with the 5K I ran 2 weeks earlier, and just stick with them. If you can, I'll kick them at the end. And that's kind of what ended up happening. I stuck with him for the majority of the race, and towards the end, I would say like last 2 laps, lap and a half, I made a move, and when I made that move, he fell off the pace. He fell off my pace. He didn't keep up with me, and from there it was just kind of a sprint finish with my previous teammate from high school, Garrett Radke. He ended up beating me by like 2 seconds, but I believe I ran 9:45, which for me, I was pretty happy with that because that was basically my 2-mile PR pace. And I knew after that 3K race, I was pretty much right in my PR shape, and I was ready to do something great the next meet. And that's what happened, everybody. Went into my 5th meet of the season, which was another indoor 5K, and ran 17.541, which after I didn't break that time, I was kind of really pissed off with myself. I wasn't really happy that I let that barrier slip away by a half second because I have been waiting a long time to break that 17-minute barrier. But looking back on it, it was a PR. I did this indoors, where indoors is just, it's harder to run quicker times than outdoors. So I knew that even though I didn't quite run that time, going into this outdoor season, I want to break that 17-minute barrier. I want to get a little bit of revenge on that time. So going into my last race, which was a 3K, I ran 9:55. Really never felt like myself throughout the whole race. I felt pretty locked in at the start, but I just didn't feel like myself during that race. And I didn't have as many guys that were kind of in my pace range. So that's what made this 3K race harder than the 3K and the 5K race I ran 2 weeks prior to this. So I went into the 3K. I pretty much stayed on my PR pace throughout the first 2K, and then I just didn't have it the last K. I just didn't. I kind of mentally, I kind of broke down. So everybody, that basically recaps all of my 6 races, the lead up to the indoor track season. And overall, guys, good indoor track season for me. I'm happy with the results, and I'm looking for even bigger results to happen this outdoor season. So with that, everybody, though, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, like this video, turn those post notifications on to see how well I race this outdoor season, and also make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Strava, join the JK Running Production Strava Club. With that, everybody, though, I'm going to sign off like I always do. The grind never stops.